Hello, everyone. It is Zach, the Dark Conservatarian, and I'm here today with our favorite liberal punching bag, the CultofHam sandwich. Now, what was that you were saying about Owen Macdonald?
Hey, he's just fucking full of, generic SJW talking points that he seems to have memorized. Because he doesn't say anything. He just says non-binary genders are valid. Non-binary can transition. Socialism is good. Capitalism is evil.
Yeah, everyone's a bigot, everyone's a transphobe, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, he says that, science has moved past, traditional,
Yeah, too
sexism.
vague of a statement right there. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, if anyone is wondering what was going down right before this broadcast, there was a bit of a heated argument, quite a heated argument actually, going down in
Oh,
our
now he's
private
bringing
Twitter
up the
chat group.
fucking Nazis too. All right, that's it.
Right now?
I'm closing that chat. No, I'm sorry, I can't.
Please do.
I got a gun next to my bed. I'm about to pull it out, blow my fucking head off.
Nope. Please don't. Yeah, please close down that Twitter. But before this interview goes off the rails with you just screaming your head off about Owen Macdonald. Okay, so I'm trying to...
Let's talk about something that's not so infuriating. Like, socialism versus capitalism. Oh, that's always fun.
Right. If anybody is wondering, right before this broadcast, there was a heated argument in the private Twitter chat group of where Owen Macdonald was going on his usual tirade about how gender is a social construct and strawmanning people, particularly conservatives, for thinking that the they them pronouns are made up. And really, that is a complete and utter straw man. They don't think that they should be used in the context of referring to a singular person. Maybe in a few sentence contexts, they should be used properly, but all in all, yeah.
How about we start just using it? Like, you're either he, she, or it.
Oh God, this is going to be a great interview, I can tell.
I'm sorry, but it takes a super far leftist like Owen for me to bring out the fucking, I don't know, I guess the alt-right in me.
Oh, yeah. No, don't be sorry. I mean, I find it quite fucking entertaining, actually. I mean, unless...
But here's the thing. Gender is a social construct. Sex, however, it's not. It's determined by the size of gamete you produce. Females produce large gamete. Males produce small.
I've never heard of that metric. I've always heard of the metric of chromosomes and genitalia, honestly, but whatever. Maybe
the gametes is what ultimately matters.
All right, I'll definitely have to look into that. And I kind of differ from both you and Esman actually, he says that we should just get rid of gender altogether and stick to strictly sex. And you're saying that gender, you're just giving Owen the benefit of the doubt that gender is a social construct.
No. It is a social construct, but it's informed by biology.
Okay, my differing opinion is that gender, as I understand it, is a synonym for sex. They're basically the same word, just different ways of putting it.
Well, anyway. Think of sex is like, is just a body. Gender is like all the shit that's going up in your head, and it's also informed by, it's influenced by culture, and other shit like that. So it tends to be a bit more flaky.
I will admit entirely that the lines between male and female are kind of blurred. I mean, especially since you got literal chicks with dicks like Blair White and Theron Meyer and so forth.
Well, she's well, that's because she's trans, and she just hasn't gotten rid of the dick yet.
But yeah, I will. As I was saying, I'll admit that male and female, the lines between those two genders are blurred. But I'm not convinced at all that there is a third or multiple other genders. I mean, that's where I differ from these pro-spectrum people mainly. But anyway, so today I was wanting to talk to you about capitalism and your criticisms of it, and some of your evolving or just your general beliefs. Period. And then we were going to talk about skeptic drama, and I was wanting to like keep this interview down to about an hour. Starting the timer. I forgot to start the timer. Because right after this, I want to get into some video editing and so forth. But let's keep to the entertaining topics. What did you think of that debate with Owen Macdonald on capitalism?
Frankly, kind of infuriating because, well, it wasn't so much you. It was S-Man. He was making points that I thought were just irrelevant, and I wanted to make points that I thought were, pretty good and interesting. Like, S-Man is so fucking obsessed with this idea that of businesses should have the right to discriminate, which they don't.
Well, obviously we already had that debate, and you know where I stand. But
I honestly forget. I honestly forget.
I believe that people have an absolute right. They have okay. I would have to like reword it a little bit better, but I believe in private property rights, and I believe that the right to deny service based on any reason that you determine is legitimate is your right, covered under private property rights. That is my. But as far as obsessing with the right to discriminate, as much as I agree with S-Man, I'm thinking that he's kind of going on too much about it. I mean, he asks Secular Hawk as soon as he invited him into the chat. That was the first thing that he asked. Like, dude, this guy is about as left-leaning as CultofHam. What the fuck do you think his answer is going to be? And he just had a debate with me against you and some random geek. And obviously, you claim that you are a very far hard left, and so it just utterly baffles me as to why he wants to go off on this tangent of asking Owen Macdonald of what his opinion on that is. Like, dude, S-Man, with all due respect, but what the fuck do you think Owen's answer is going to be? He's further to the left than even fucking CultofHam.
Owen doesn't even believe businesses should exist.
Yeah, he doesn't believe CEOs have a legitimate case. And really, what infuriated me. Okay, another thing that infuriated me about that debate is that we did not have time limits for each person speaking. If we are going to do a debate, particularly if we're going to have Owen Macdonald in a debate, we need to set time limits, because that guy, he likes to motor mouth on and on and on. Like, that's his strategy. Occam's Router put it in the best way of saying, Owen is a weasel, or weasels like Owen. They have this strategy of not bringing up actual information and sources. Their strategy is to just out-talk their opponents until basically they forget what they were wanting to say in response to something else that they said. And I debated Owen Macdonald on 4 different topics once, and he would just keep on talking on and on and on and going off on a tangent and just get me lost in the weeds till I forgot about what I was wanting to say originally. That's what really infuriated me about Owen. And just now, it's gloves off. Ever since that incredible Aspie debate, I got real pissed with him. And by the way, I say check out the incredible Aspie versus Owen Macdonald. I mean, Aspie, you might disagree with him on a number of topics, but he goes debating the one topic that you would likely agree with him on, and that being transgenderism.
Yeah. For one, I can't stand the sound of Aspie's voice. I have a pretty bad stutter, but his is like a whole new level.
I have a pretty bad stutter myself, but I still try to get past it. Despite that, it was a pretty entertaining debate, in my opinion.
Yeah, talks like this is what helps me with that. Um.
And
So.
I was like trying to back up your point. Like you were bringing up the point of during that debate of how the business starts off. Like you got one single dude that tries to take his excuse me, buy himself a piece of property and sell his goods and call that a business and so on and so forth. And then he'll hire other people. And Owen just kept on reverting back to his typical logic of saying that the business owner would be nowhere without the worker. And it just really pissed me off and was all like, CultofHam is talking about the start, Owen.
Yeah, I see what Owen is trying to do. He's trying to say, "Oh, you can't even start without the work." Or like, no, you need the first guy to get the idea. You need the first guy with the initiative, with the idea, with the plan, with the resources, with everything in order to get this fucking business started.
Yeah, I mean, where's the thank you from the employee? I mean, the employee should be thankful to the business owner, but Owen thinks, no, shouldn't be the case.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far because most businesses can go fuck themselves. But, I have innumerable criticisms of capitalism, but I still understand that it's still the best system for running an economy that we have to date. I mean, for as long as individual merit still matters, is still valuable, capitalism will reign supreme. The only time it'll shift from capitalism over to socialism is when individual merit is no longer valuable, and that'll probably happen when we have a fully automated economy, and it's not just automated factories and whatnot. I mean like buses are automated, food service lines are automated, just farms and everything. Like literally, the only industry left for us, fleshy humans, would be entertainment.
Entertainment and probably the maintaining of those machines.
But no. Even then,
I mean,
even then, you'd have machines to maintain those machines. And only
I don't know.
then,
I still kind of.
yeah.
I still kind of think that there would be people needed somewhat. I mean, maybe to maintain the motherboard, make sure that it does not overthrow humans or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. But only once we reach that point will socialism become the superior system.
I think it'll become the superior system if like everybody were these perfect little angels. And that's the problem with Owen. He keeps on pushing aside the aspect that if we were to attain socialism, that there would be people who would want to claim a piece of land for themselves. Not every single piece of land is going to be claimed, is going to be guarded by the socialists. There's going to be some random guy who will want to claim a piece of land for himself, and then the socialists are not going to like that, are not going to like what he's using his land for. Like maybe he's using it to chop down trees, make furniture or whatever.
I like how in the debate we were like, okay, socialism takes over, and there's like roving gangs of socialists, taking control of the capitalist property. I'm like holy shit! A socialist system under Owen's eye sounds fucking horrifying.
Yeah, I didn't hear exactly that part what you said, but I did hear him say once before, like, okay, I did a collab video with some other people once, Humane Mind, Aspie, S-Man, JJ Skinner, Alexander Kingsfallen. We did a collab video asking questions to socialists, questions that capitalists have for socialists. And then Owen, of course, made a response video to that. And I asked, what would be the way that you would attain this perfect socialist utopia? And that's when he said that he would not rule out a violent revolution. But then he turns that on its head and says that capitalism is violence.
Yeah, sure. Capitalism has potential for corruption. So does literally every system developed by humans, because humans are corruptible.
Yeah, like things like crony capitalism and so forth. But even then, that doesn't mean that necessarily it's inherently violent. The only violent type of capitalism that I can really think of right off the top of my head is the slave trade. That's it. I mean, people were capitalizing on other
I
people
mean,
and killing them.
was that really capitalism? Because it was it was not free persons, engaging in trade. It was, this army slaughtered this tribe, took the survivors, sold them off to, the white men to sell them off to some farm for sugar and shit. I mean, it was kind of antithetical to capitalism.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I guess I'm mainly just giving socialists the benefit of the doubt of when they want to label it that.
yeah, give them the benefit of the doubt, and suddenly you got 60 million dead.
Yeah. I mean that's the only thing. That's the one thing that I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. The one thing that I absolutely will not give the benefit of the doubt towards socialists is the idea of stolen labor. And this is one thing that I'm glad that you and I agree on is this front is the idea of my labor or your labor being stolen. I mean, we're both working class citizens and we are consenting to trade our labor for a wage. You guys grasp
Yeah,
that concept?
slavery is illegal. I cannot just work and be expected to work without compensation. I wouldn't do it either way. You either compensate me or you fucking shoot me. Um, but yeah, you know,
I mean,
there's no in a capitalist system, there's no such thing as stolen labor because you are selling your labor, for a wage. If you feel your labor is getting stolen, quit. Go somewhere else where you feel that you'll be compensated better for
right.
your skill. I mean,
Yep.
I'm doing pretty fucking good for a 22-year-old without a college degree. I
You're
just
22.
huh? I'm
You're
22.
22.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were older than me. I'm 23.
Oh, you old fuck. Um,
I look young for my age. That's the main thing.
You also have a pretty shitty webcam that kind of blurs everything. What?
Whatever.
What the fuck was I going to? Oh yeah, I'm doing pretty good for someone my age without a college degree. I looked it up. I just I made like $38,000 last year. And I'll probably make even more this year. That's pretty good for someone without a college degree. Hell,
I went to trade school.
You went to trade school? Yeah, I
Yeah,
never
for
did.
welding.
I probably don't have the maturity or temperament for going to class because I'm always like sitting there fidgeting, getting distracted by every.
Don't have the maturity? No, you don't say. It shows in live streams.
Yeah.
No, I can be a very immature person myself. I mean, if you see my shit posting videos, it'll be where I'm taking out skits of myself in a live stream, like Zach is racist or Zach is gay confirmed or some bullshit like that.
Yeah. Now let me be fair to socialists. Let me tell you my criticisms of capitalism, because capitalism without regulation will devolve into a form of neo-feudalism, essentially. Monopolies will quickly gain control, and everyone else will essentially become serfs. They'll be worked to death, paid a pittance, and as soon as they're injured or they die, their carcass gets thrown out the door, and they bring in the next body. You know, capitalism without regulation, doesn't care about the it does only care about profit. Okay, although certain practices does lend to more profit, but they're not intuitive. Like like for instance, this is not how it kind of is actually. Like in Utah, they had a really bad homeless problem. Their solution was to put them in housing. It turns out that solution saved them money because these homeless people were not constantly, going to prison, going to jail, getting into fights, causing damage. To house them, the cost of like $10,000 a year. To have them on the streets was like $30,000 a year. I mean, it's incredible.
Now, just FYI, this is specifically an interview. I'm not going to be challenging you a whole lot. I did not ask for a debate, but okay. Would you agree that anarcho-capitalism is capitalism in its purest form?
No. Because the problem with anarcho-capitalism is the same problem with anarcho-communism. Is eventually you'll get someone with the biggest guns, with the most guns, with the most people, the biggest army, and they'll just take control. And
because you were saying earlier capitalism without regulation, and that was what I thought you were referring to.
Oh,
was anarcho-capitalism.
Well, capitalism to be in its purest form does require regulation. Like you can't have one business or one group of people just suddenly dominate the entire market and everyone else. That suppresses their ability to engage in the free market. And
all right, so you think that restricting people's freedoms in the way of slavery and capitalism are completely polar opposite of each other, exclusive from each other?
I mean, like enslaving people.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean by restricting their freedoms. I mean that's the main thing that I'm meaning in this context.
I think the whole goal of capitalism is to be as free as possible. So if there are certain measures, if there are certain regulations you can institute that slightly reduce a few freedoms but expands freedoms everywhere, such as banning slavery, such as preventing monopolies from creating, things like that. They restrict capitalism slightly in a certain area, but it allows for the other businesses, capitalism to prosper in other areas.
Right. Was you going to say something else? Sorry.
I don't think that was it.
There was like a few questions that I had to you regarding capitalism. You said in the Poor Bastards chat that your position on a living wage, on a minimum wage, has kind of evolved as of late. I mean, that's what I'm understanding. Like, explain how it's evolved.
I would be willing to forfeit a living wage if we. There are essentially three kinds of safety nets that I feel are beneficial if not necessary. There's a living wage, there's a welfare state, and there's a guaranteed income. I forget what the actual term for that is, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So
I think I roughly get what you mean.
So I feel a welfare state, or the social safety net is the absolute bare minimum that you need. You know, if a person falls on hard times, loses his job, can't work, gets sick, you know, you can't just have them, you know, starve to death, die in the streets of preventable causes.
Right.
That's at least not the society I want to live in.
And in the chat, you also said that you would prefer if both happened, both a living wage and a social safety net, right?
I would prefer. I would prefer all three. I would be willing to negotiate downwards, but a welfare state is absolutely non-negotiable. This will happen.
But what you're saying is it's a reasonable compromise in your mind. You're willing to compromise totally getting rid of the minimum wage, the living wage, but in a trade for a sufficient safety net that makes sure that people do not just die of starvation and sickness and whatnot.
Yeah. So if a person only brings home, you know, $10,000 from his job at Walmart, but he needs $20,000 to live, the welfare state will, you know, make up the difference. That's how I see it.
I think that's a reasonable compromise that you and I can agree on, because I absolutely do believe in private property rights, but I do not rule out a welfare system. Yeah, that's a reasonable compromise between us. What made you change your mind slightly? Did the debate with Humane Mind on the minimum wage have anything to do with that?
Probably. Cause you know he was going on about, oh, what about small businesses? What about small businesses? And yeah, a minimum wage would hurt a small business, but I think a progressive tax system would also go to help small businesses too. Put less of a burden on small businesses and more of a burden on, you know, the mega profitable corporations like, you know, the pharmaceuticals, banks, oil industry. Yeah, Walmart. Yeah, yeah, Walmart. Those fuckers.
I do not know what I was about to ask. I was about to ask if you like you say that you hate Humane Mind. I mean, I thought I heard you say that once in the chat.
I honestly do. I have, and I don't think it's due to because of what he believes. It's because of his way of thinking. Like I have a friend who is a legit alt-right person. You know, he believes in white supremacy and all that shit. But I'm friends with him. Some fucking how. It's likely due to because we essentially have the same sense of humor. I like really dark humor, and he does too.
Yeah, that will help. And Owen doesn't have a dark enough sense of humor, unfortunately.
Funny how he's dark.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the literal, he's not that dark, but yeah. If only his humor was at least as dark as his pigmentation.
This was yeah. What I kind of noticed about Humane Mind, like, he does not accept ambiguity at all whatsoever. No, like, no ambiguity. It all has to be known, you know, categorized and like thought out and shit.
Sorry. I guess I do not know the definition of ambiguity. What exactly is that again?
Uh, I know what it means, but I can't actually put it to words. Ambiguity. The
Do you
quality,
agree?
the quality of being open to more than one interpretation. Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought that tied in with the the philosophy of agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
For some reason, yeah. I mean, Humane Mind is really a mixed bag. I mean, I really do think that he's a smart guy. He has a whole lot of information. He's got analogies out the wazoo. He's a skilled debater, but he really is a mixed bag. Like whenever it comes to debating religion or science, that's where he really fails. And I'll give the net neutrality debate to you just because of that one moment that he was like, yeah, that is a concern. Um, but yeah, I really do think he's a smart guy, but he can be a jackass sometimes. I mean, he was even insisting on pushing the whole issue of Bering laughing at AIU doxing the outspoken realist. I was all like, Humane Mind, just drop it. Bering said that he regrets laughing and that he doesn't remember the whole situation word for word. So just drop it.
Yeah. During the I don't know.
Plus, he's being a bit of a jackass handling Jocelyn and S-Man on this whole religion thing. I mean, them two are the most mild-mannered people in the chat. I do not know why he would get so damn pissed at them.
Yeah, I can understand anyone getting pissed at me because I approach every delicate situation with a sledgehammer and a stick of dynamite. I was going to say on our debates on creationism, I I noticed that he's like thoroughly uneducated on the subject. Because he comes out saying with this like false equivalence between creationism and science, even though uh everything that creationism comes out and says is either vague beyond usefulness or it's just flat out wrong. Like there was no global flood 4,500 years ago. There was no Noah's Ark. There was no the Earth was not created 6,000 years ago. There were no first few humans. You know. I mean, like literally every field of science disproves creationism on every tenet. It's laughable that he defend this this position.
Yeah, and he doesn't even really believe in it. He's just trying to play devil's advocate for it. I mean, I don't know why he would so strongly push his devil advocacy on the issue. Like he even told me, like me and him talked a little bit in the live in our own personal chats, and he says that he doesn't even know if there is or is not a god. He still consistently plays devil's advocate on the issue.
Yeah. Well, one thing that was really telling is how I was trying to get him to admit that wisdom teeth were vestigial organs. And I kept trying to tell him, and Loudmouth was also trying to tell him that, yeah, wisdom teeth comes from a time when we had a larger jaw. Our jaw is too small for 32 teeth. You know? And wisdom teeth famously causes problems. I've had mine removed.
So,
yeah. I also brought up another vestigial. Well, I wouldn't call it a vestigial organ, more like an inefficiency in the quote unquote design. The left laryngeal nerve. It's a nerve that connects our brain to our vocal cord. And if you think about where your vocal cords are to your brain, it's only a distance of a few inches. But that nerve actually goes all the way down your neck into your chest cavity, wraps around your heart, I think around the aorta, then travels back into your neck. Now, if you're a god and you're designing a human being, would you do that weird loop-to-loop, or would you just do a straight line to from the brain to the vocal cord?
Well, I would not know. I mean, I cannot read God's mind, honestly.
Oh yeah, you're a Christian, but I explained to him the evolutionary explanation for that nerve, and all his response was, "Well, go ahead and get that nerve removed and change and see how that helps you."
I don't know. I would have to go back and see his explanation on that, I guess.
Like literally everything I say to him, like he's just waiting to just do a comeback. Like he doesn't accept anything I say. He just waits for a comeback.
It almost seems like that, I guess. Going back on topic though, because I wasn't explicitly want to make this stream about humane mind and religion, and we're 30 minutes in. I want to ask your opinions about education. I don't think you ever mentioned that in any live stream before, at least not that I've listened to so far. Do you think that education should all be paid for from pre to through college? Every single aspect.
It's a really nice thing that we can easily afford to do. I mean, the recent increase to the military budget would pay for a free college for this year or a decade. I forget how long, but it could pay for a lot of education. And we just freely give that to the military. So if we can afford to waste billions and trillions on the military in wars over in Afghanistan, the 8 other different countries we're involved with, well, we can afford free college.
Do you think explicitly we should just focus the money on hands-on productive skills like welding and architecture and whatnot, or should that also be extended to frivolous things like gender studies and liberal arts?
I wouldn't consider.
I do not know the full extent of what liberal arts is, so excuse my ignorance, please.
Liberal arts is kind of it's hard to describe. It's a pretty comprehensive education. I'd say that's a worthwhile thing to fund. Gender studies, women's studies, African studies. No, those shouldn't even be college courses. I mean, maybe. But they have to be radically changed. I mean, to such an extent they don't even resemble what they do today, because they're a propaganda training course anyway right now. But yeah, welding, engineering, architecture, chemistry, all that should absolutely be funded, and other things like history should also be funded, because English, literature, history, that's all important. That's all important for our culture, and we gotta maintain what it means to be an American or a Western liberal democracy.
You're reflecting back on the good old saying, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, and we're
Right.
repeating history like you wouldn't fucking believe.
I would think if I was to believe in paid for college, like after 12th grade, I would believe that explicitly for hands-on trades, like what we just mentioned, and history and math. I mean, not necessarily things like philosophy. I mean, philosophy is great to know, but I don't see the actual productivity it can be to the preservation of a society economically and so forth.
Philosophy is important. I mean, it teaches you how to think and how to avoid thinking badly. Because, like as we mentioned before, humane mind. I mean, he probably do really good for a lesson in philosophy because the way he thinks is ass backwards.
Well, I wouldn't know if he did or did not take a course in that.
I mean, I only know philosophy by just listening from various videos from Matt Dillahunty and other YouTube philosophers like that. But
that's kind of the same thing with me.
Yeah, I've kind of absorbed some of that knowledge and way of thinking, and I think it's helped me.
Right. I haven't taken a philosophy course at all myself. I mean, I kind of considered it at the time that I was still going to school, but no, we do not have like any really good colleges for learning philosophy or whatnot here in Kansas. I mean, if you want a good philosophy,
Jesus, class, you live in Kansas? Holy shit, I feel
English
sorry for you. You still like your governor?
Not necessarily. And besides that, I hear that Brownback is actually moving out and being replaced by the lieutenant governor now. I mean, he got chosen for an appointment of some kind, like an ambassador of some sorts for Trump. Oh yeah, it was some religious ambassador or something.
Oh fuck!
Like a good for him, I guess. But I don't really see the point.
At least he's not as embarrassing as my former governor, Rick Perry.
Compared to what do you think of Greg Abbott?
I haven't lived under the reign of Greg Abbott.
Oh, right. So sorry, my bad. You live in Illinois now?
Yeah, don't bother asking me who's my governor here in Illinois, because he's probably such a generic, boring fucking politician that he doesn't even know that he's governor.
Okay, well. God, what was I saying? Something. Oh yeah, it was something about philosophy. I did not take a philosophy class. Like I said, I mean, I just mainly learned how to kind of philosophize, but by listening to people like numerous people, like mainly John Lennox, Ravi Zacharias, and some people that are kind of on the opposite from me as far as beliefs go, like Penn Jillette, Christopher Hitchens, a little bit of Sam Harris, and William Lane Craig. I told you that one time when we were on S-Man stream and it was off air. I told you how I thought that William Lane Craig is interesting to listen to, but at the same time, his personality is just a big turnoff because he comes off as so smug and arrogant.
I agree with the smug and arrogant part, but I disagree with the fact that he's interesting to listen to. He's thoroughly boring. I one time watched a debate between him, eight other Christians, and Christopher Hitchens, and he spout off like these eight fucking arguments. And Christopher Hitchens, he only has so much time. He responded to most of what everyone said. Then later on, Bill Craig comes in and says, Christopher Hitchens didn't address so-and-so points. And, Bill Bill Craig, it kind of infuriates
he likes
me.
to say that a lot.
Huh? What?
He likes to say that a lot. So-and-so person did not address this point.
Oh, what? That's a common thing with him? Oh, fuck. Yeah, I'd really hate to fucking deal with him.
Is there like any Christian apologist that you could say that you respect somewhat? Just out of curiosity, quickly.
No, cause the ones I would are probably just boring. Although, I mean, I'd say there's only like a handful of Christian apologists that have really infuriated me, like Bill Craig and oh god, Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza makes me want to throw a baby against the wall.
Oh jeez, starting to sound like Vegan Gains.
He might get me to get that crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, was there something you were about to say?
There's like 2 or 3 typical arguments / fallacies that Dinesh likes to use. One is atheists killed 60 million people during World War II, or during the reign of Stalin and Mao and those other communist dictators. Note how they're all communist dictators. And he conflates like just he conflates atheism with communism. And sure, communists we're all atheists, but I wouldn't blame all theists or all people who believe in God for the crimes of Hitler or Leopold II of Belgium, the Inquisition, the Spanish conquest of America. I wouldn't believe all. I wouldn't blame everyone who believes in a God for the crimes of those Christians. So
Okay.
You see my point, right?
Yeah, I get your point, and
atheism and theism
for your decency in that aspect.
Yeah, atheism and theism are not religions. They're not comprehensive belief systems. They are a statement of belief on one subject, and that's it.
Okay. So I kind of we kind of got off on a tangent there. I mean, another capitalist thing that I want to bring up within this interview is what to you would be the definition of a single payer health system? Because the way I always understood it was that it was the abolition of all privately owned insurance companies. And then just focusing the paying of the healthcare bills all under the government, centrally under the government.
Well, I kind of agree with that. A single payer system would replace the insurance companies. The hospitals, the doctors, the pharmaceutical companies, they can all remain private. But the insurance companies will be replaced by the single payer system.
Yeah, and Humane Mind mentioned a point of saying that insurance companies are a scam, that health insurance is a scam. I would have to hear him elaborate his point on that. I mean, maybe they are a scam, but I just do not know the whole argumentation behind it.
Health insurance is a scam. It absolutely is a scam. You pay money every month in case you get sick or injured. And then when you do get sick or injured, the health insurance company does whatever in their fucking power to not pay you, to not pay your bills. Yeah.
Yeah, that does make sense actually. And then he said that health savings plans would be a better option.
Well, better option
Um,
than single payer or health insurance.
I don't know. That's kind of well, then health insurance and single payer. I mean, that's kind of the implication that I get from him, but I don't mean to put words in his mouth.
Of course, he would go for the anarcho-capitalist route.
Right.
Uh,
Um. So another thing that I want to ask about is when I heard S-Man say to me that you were a capitalist. I mean, at first I was kind of thinking somebody of the caliber of like Milton Friedman, kind of. But then come to find out you're actually of the Bernie Sanders caliber more.
yeah.
And so that makes me wonder: would like a quasi or semi-capitalist be a more correct term? Do you think, just in your opinion?
Uh, I don't see how it'd be semi or quasi. I believe in a capitalist system. I believe in
Well,
private ownership of the means of production. I believe in you know, people selling their labor for a wage. I believe in the free market. I just believe it needs regulation in order to be free. You know,
but
put it that way.
okay, so I mentioned the term quasi-capitalist to Lonely Wolf, and he said that would kind of be a correct interpretation of his position. And the reason why I come up with the term, I mean, actually, I do not know. I'm pretty sure that I'm not the one who like invented it, but the reason why I bring up that term quasi or semi-capitalist is because you believe in capitalism on the basis of luxuries, cars, and cheaply made items like food and whatnot. I mean, food is still fairly affordable. It's a need to life, but it's still fairly affordable. So I assume that you believe in capitalism on that front. But there's still a whole lot of other aspects that you do not believe in capitalism on, like healthcare
Well,
and
okay.
so forth.
There are two situations where I believe the profit motive is, or where I believe capitalism fails. It's cases where the profit motive would be detrimental to society, such as health insurance, because the less uh, the less care you pay for, the more profit you make. That's an example. The other case is when there's a substantial infrastructure that would have to be produced and maintained, such as roads, the electrical grid, water mains, gas mains. You know, things that if you had a jumble of capitalist businesses maintaining, you would have, you know, three different standards, you know, dozens of different qualities of construction materials and maintenance. You know, and how exactly do you uh, uh, make money off of that? You know, toll roads for every fucking road you go on. It'd be annoying.
I just think that off-road vehicles would skyrocket if we were in an ANCAP society, the
It,
market of
it,
off-roaders.
it'd have to. It'd fucking have to. Um,
Yeah.
let's see what else. Um,
Or maybe somebody invents hover cars.
uh, well, they already do have hover cars. They're just expensive. So
No, no,
yeah,
no, no. Yeah, you're right, but make them market the same way that Henry Ford made the automobile affordable.
I, I don't think it's possible. you know, the advantage that Henry Ford had over the hover car is his car was on four wheels. It was solidly planted on the ground.
It's a little bit more of a complicated mechanism to make a vehicle float naturally.
Yeah, and it just simply won't last as long. The rubber skirts will wear out faster than a tire. But yeah, those are the two areas where I feel where capitalism does fail, and we need we need a state to take over those areas and maintain it. And sure, the state doesn't do the best job. It probably won't do as good of a job if we had the most competent business out there. But you won't have that business, that most competent business in control of all the roads. You'll have a mishmash of different businesses, all with different standards of quality, maintenance, design specifications, and whatnot. I mean, think back to turn of century America, the cities that had electrical grids. They were a nightmare of wires and vastly different standards.
I'm thinking that the easiest way to privatize the electric companies is not by wires, but if like each building had a huge battery that the owner of the building would have to replace every once or few months.
I can come up with numerous problems right there. Size of battery, cost of transportation of that battery. The electrical grid.
Well, obviously, it would take a whole lot of advancement, but I'm not talking about like real big, like the size of this apartment that I'm living in or anything like that, but something like maybe the size of my desk or my dresser or something that would be fairly easily liftable with a forklift or something.
Well,
that's my thought.
Here's the thing: there's only so much energy you can store within a battery. There's like a minimum of 4 atoms needed. Well, there's a minimum of four components in a battery that you need. You need the anode, cathode. I forget the makeup of a battery, but you can only store about 25% weight and energy.
What I mean by the advancement of technology in the area of batteries is there's a more compressed way of holding more energy. Like I do not know the science behind batteries, obviously, but I'm just thinking that maybe cold fusion or something. I don't know.
Cold fusion. Wow. There's a physical limit on how much energy you can store within a given space, and cold fusion is debunked bullshit. I'm sorry.
I'll definitely have to look into that. I mean, there was like one time when I was applying for my GED, there was an essay that I had to write. Like, I read a little excerpt of some magazine or something regarding cold fusion in the essay writing part of my GED. And then I had to write a short 3-paragraph essay about it. And I don't know. I guess it was kind of vague about the. I mean, the only important part was making a sufficient essay.
Yeah. The problem with cold fusion is, it comes from one source and no one else has been able to replicate it. And the science behind it just doesn't make sense.
Well, then somebody would have to learn how to reverse engineer or to just copy off of what the former person that formerly did.
You're telling them things that they've already done and done to death.
But they weren't able to replicate the same result.
Yeah, and in science, that's called a fluke or an anomaly.
Replicated the same design, but did not replicate the same result.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's called a anomaly.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like a off the cuff
Yeah.
idea. I mean,
Yeah, I
be
know
a
you're not here
dumb
to defend
idea.
cold fusion to me.
Not really. I haven't read up a whole lot on it. So the last thing that I wanted to ask you about was Sargon of Akkad and other YouTube politics. Like you said before that you are a fan of secular talk.
Yes, I am.
All right, and what I've
Although
seen
I disagree on on several subjects, I'm still a fan of him. Along with Sargon, T.J. Kirk, and various other YouTubers like that.
nobody is going to 110% agree with their favorite political pundit. I mean, that's not the implication I'm trying to get from you or trying to put on you. But you're a fan of secular talk, and what I've been seeing a lot recently with the fan base is that they are really starting to hate more and more. I mean, particularly the fan base of Progressive Voice. And Progressive Voice, I do not know if you heard him, but he gets a lot of fans from secular talk. Like he shares a lot of the same fan base. And what I'm seeing from the general secular talk fan base is that these days they're really hating more and more Sargon of Akkad and Dave Rubin. And I just wanted to get your general opinion on the both of those two guys.
I don't watch Dave Rubin, but I watch a lot of Sargon and a lot of Kyle. And I don't know what I think the main differences between the two is like you got you got to remember Sargon's in England, Kyle's in America. They have two different political situations going on. Here in America, we're we're controlled by the far right authoritarian wackos, and in England, it's apparently a more of a mixed bag. Like you got far left elements, you got far right elements, and a lot of them are authoritarian assholes.
I thought you was at first calling like people like Donald Trump a far right wacko.
Donald Trump is his policies at least they are far right authoritarian uh, um, policies, but I don't think Donald. I honestly don't think Donald Trump has the mental capacity to be anywhere on the political spectrum. I don't think he has a core belief system.
Right, and it obviously showed during the campaign.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a couple of things that makes him seem not very far right in his policies is that he hasn't made any push at all. I mean, granted, you could make the point that he chose Mike Pence as his VP, but he hasn't made any real push as far as gay marriage goes, and he seems very, very indifferent about drugs. But then again, you could also make the argument of
Did you
how he
not watch the State of the
chose
Union?
Jeff Sessions
Did you not watch
yesterday or whatever within the last 2 days. No, I have not.
He's going to ramp up the war on drugs.
I definitely have to listen to that.
Yeah, it's a tough watch, but God, it's horrifying.
Ramp up the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Is that how you're like interpreting, or are you just are you trying to like say quote verbatim of what he said?
No, well, that's not verbatim. He's saying, "Oh, we have so many poor spicks who get killed every day by the war on by drugs and shit. So that's why I'm going to do, these various policy issues.
Okay, I would definitely
Yeah.
have to watch it for myself because I don't know. Maybe you and I would have like different points of view on interpreting of what he's saying. Like, are you sure he did not say drug cartels getting killed by drug cartels and not drugs?
I don't know. I can't remember if he ever. No,
Okay.
I think he did mention the drug cartels, but
I mean, because if he's if he's talking about drug cartels, and that would sound like it would tie in specifically with immigration more than it would with the actual war on drugs.
the immigration part was a different part, and he did mention the drug cartels, but the point was he was making is he's going to ramp up the war on drugs.
Hmm.
I mean, you're just
I
going to
don't
have to
know.
watch it.
All right. I mean, I do not know if I ever told you about my position on drugs, but generally, I say not legalize them, but decriminalize them. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a nuanced difference between the definitions of legalize and decriminalize. Like decriminalize, it's not against the law to do so, but when you legalize something, that there's some law tying to the function of that one aspect of American life or so forth. Like, for example, marriage. I mean, if you get the government completely out of marriage, that would be a decriminalizing, but also delegalizing of marriage.
Yeah,
But if you keep the government in marriage, that would be legalizing it. It's the way I understand the definitions of legalize and criminalize or decriminalize. Excuse me.
The legalization, taxation, and regulation of drugs is a position that's non-negotiable. This is going to happen. It's slowly happening in the states. Of
No,
course,
I
the
don't doubt that
Republicans
it's
are
slowly
showing their
happening.
true colors. They don't believe in states' rights for shit. You know, they just want their policy beliefs instituted.
Well, I wouldn't say that they don't believe in states' rights for shit, but they're particularly inconsistent with it. And one prime example that I would see is like Jeff Sessions. I mean, I did like a Strike Force episode talking to Sessions on weed, and really, it was disappointing.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Um,
So what would you think of Sargon of Akkad and his opinions on Trump? You completely disagree with his opinions on Trump?
I I tend to it. I tend to disagree that Trump needs all this defending because, yes, Trump is getting attacked in the media, but he's not getting attacked for the right reasons. Everyone's
Right.
going after him because of he's outrageous, he's racist, he's sexist. Going,
His personality, the culture
yeah, I
wars,
mean,
Russian ties.
you fucking morons. He's fucking insane. He's getting us involved in more interventions. He's funding dictatorships. He gave 100 billion. No, he gave 30 billion to Saudi Arabia. He's destroying the nuclear deal with Iran. I mean, shit. Oh yeah, of course he fucking took credit for destroying ISIS during the State of Union address, even though all we've done is essentially help ISIS.
Help ISIS. You're talking about mainly of how they started off first.
How we bombed the Syrian government, how we bombed the forces opposing ISIS, how we gave weapons to ISIS, how we
Okay,
destabilized the entire Middle East area that allowed ISIS to grow.
giving weapons and creating a power vacuum. Yeah, I understand the arguments of that, but as far as bombing the enemies of ISIS, I mean, an enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend. I mean, I would have to understand the context of all the attacks of the enemies we that we engage in ourselves, but just because that we attack an enemy of our enemy, that enemy being ISIS, I don't know. I wouldn't just blanketly say is a bad thing. I mean, it might be a strategic blunder, possibly, but still.
Well,
This
we
is
seem to
my
be doing a lot
general
of
opinion.
strategic blunders then.
All right, and
yeah,
the strategic blunder was getting into Iraq as long as we did, maybe even for the first place, and then getting out the way that we did, with leaving off a very weak Iraq government that could not defend itself from ISIS and all the other pressures coming around it.
So going back to Sargon defending Trump, I mean,
right, sorry, weaved
yeah,
off too much.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to think that no, he does think that Trump is a fuck you to the far left, even though it's not the far left that's in control of the government. It's the far right that's in control of the government. Sure, I'll agree that far left elements are in control of many American corporations like Google, but they're only far left in
George
terms of
Soros?
social issues. They're lockstep with the far right when it comes to economic issues. Like Oprah Winfrey, huh?
The far left agrees with the right on allowing businesses to risk.
The far left, the corporate far left, you know, believes in a corporatocracy, corporatism.
Okay. That I will definitely give you the benefit of the doubt on, but you kind of made a blanket statement of how the far left agrees with the right on economic issues, and that kind of raised a red flag in my head. And I was thinking,
I'm
no,
talking
the left
about
does not agree.
the far left in the corporate in Silicon Valley, the ones who could the millionaires and billionaires.
If you want to talk about crony capitalism like bank bailouts or business subsidies, you and I will say, yeah, they agree with each other on that. But it's just it's the things like minimum wage and right to deny service. It's just think of those two aspects. That's what made my head kind of raise a.
Yeah. I mean, it's a messy, it's a really messy mishmash of different beliefs. It's almost as if people are individuals.
Yeah.
Destroy
the whole left-right dichotomy and just
yeah, the actual dichotomy is, you know, the haves and have-nots. Well, not really. Just the corporation saying "fuck you" and everyone else.
One last thing that I want to, or actually, last things very quickly that I want to ask before we get off, and it's an hour and 8 minutes, but we'll go on just a little bit longer because I'm having a good time right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, would you consider yourself a progressive as far as your political ideology label goes?
On certain issues.
A progressive or a liberal? Would you all in all call yourself?
I would call myself a liberal, just as a blanket statement for what I believe in. But on certain issues like social issues, you could probably call me a progressive. But you know, I'm not so progressive that I think that there are 8 million genders there's the LGBTXYZ ABC. Now I know all my ABCs.
White privilege.
That's horseshit.
Yeah, I mean, I think you would be more probably libertarian leaning on those aspects. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I'm pro individual liberty, which sounds like a really sounds like a really milquetoast statement, but we got people, who are downright fucking communists. When you got people who who fired James Damore for a really milquetoast memo. That's actually a really bold statement to say, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you obviously know my conservatarian, otherwise known as a conservative libertarian. Yeah. Are there any other members in the Skeptic trademark community that you say that you would listen to a lot that you kind of like?
Oh, well, I say Hugo and Jake, Cult of Dusty. Been listening to Andy Worski here lately, but I haven't really been listening to him for him. I've been mostly listening to him for Mr. Medicare. I really do like Mr. Medicare, even though I think he's
He's an
incredibly
alt-righter,
wrong.
though.
Huh?
He's an alt-righter, though, isn't he?
Oh God, no.
I don't know. I haven't listened at all to Mr. Medicare.
I mean,
I thought I just got the implication. That was all.
I think it's kind of difficult to tell what he is, because he really never explains what his political positions are. His position is, I'm a meme lord. I find you funny. I'm gonna laugh at you. That's his way of thinking. He and Sargon had a debate about the liberalists, which is something that I support. I kind of like the idea of liberalists, but Mr. Medicare's sole criticism of it was, it sounds cringy and y'all are sniffing your own farts. Uh, yeah. He's kind of a drama whore. I like Aaron Ra. I fucking love Aaron Ra. Like most of what I know about evolution and about the evolution versus creationism debate comes from him. Let's see.
You don't like Bearing.
Yeah. What? I really never found him all that interesting. But as soon as he did his anti-gay marriage protest, they're like, yeah, you're a fucking retard. Because I am.
I had to disagree with that.
I am a 100% free speech absolutist. Only there's only one situation where free speech is doesn't protect your speech, and that's when you directly cause harm to someone else.
Like doxing.
Doxing, libel, slander, yelling fire in a theater. I don't even consider.
But you're a free speech absolutist as far when it comes to people expressing opinions about all matters.
Yes. If you have an opinion,
cool.
even if it's stupid, you have the right to say it. Let's see. I listen to Chris Raygun. He needs to make more videos. God damn it. Dark Brad 2525. He's pretty good. Oh God. I just realized I'm still subscribed to Vadim Newquist's channels. I fucking hate that asshole. I used to like Vadim, but he just started to suck. It sucked pretty quick.
All right, I think I'm going to wrap up this this interview here very quickly, but not a whole lot of activity in the chat at all. I mean, we got a chat from Jocelyn and Godric. Then, okay. Jocelyn says, I gave it a like. Your first one, Godric, is all like, quick question. What webcam are you using? A Dark Conservatarian? Logitech. I mean, I guess he's probably gone by now, so I cannot really answer that question. And some guy called The Exact T. The T in LGBT should be tough instead of transgender because it's going to be a tough road ahead of them. Must be somebody from Owen Macdonald's fan base. And he goes asking, can you see my comments? Yes, I can see your chat. But anyway, going to wrap this up. Is there anything else that you want to say before I cut the stream?
Businesses don't have the right to discriminate. Fuck US, man.
Yeah, fuck you too, CultofHam, because I disagree with you.
Yeah. Fuck me with your thick hard rod.
Oh God! Shut the fuck up. Okay. You know what? You can keep bad dragging all you want.
Yeah, I actually don't own a bad dragon.
That was a whole shit show. That was a whole shit show of cancer last night.
I don't actually own a bad dragon toy. I just haven't got around to pick the one I want. Going for chance. Right. Unflared.
Okay, I do not know what The Exact T is exactly, because then he goes saying after the whole transgender thing, he says business do have the right to discriminate. Like, I cannot. He says one thing that is like SJW far left, and then he says another thing that is like economic right. I mean, whatever.
So you're dealing with a moron.
Oh, well, I don't know. The exact T, you have to excuse CultofHam. He's overly blunt like that. He calls everyone's morons. He says, I'm not an SJW. Okay, well, all right then.
Well, you're still a fucking moron.
I hate those fuckers, he says. Means nothing from you, Ham. All right, I'm going to end this off. Thank you, CultofHam, for dropping by, and everybody who is watching or has watched can check out his Twitter and YouTube. I've left the links down in the description box below, and have a good night, Ham.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.